All right, so the NHL trade deadline is tomorrow, and we're going to look at some trades that have already happened. So the pre-deadline trade activity. Now to start, obviously the big one, Matt Duchene and Julius Bergman to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 2019 first round pick from Columbus on the condition that Duchene signs with the Blue Jackets. Vitaly Abramov, Jonathan Davidson, and that's a big trade. I'm not sure how I feel about this trade. I don't know exactly how this is. It seems, the thing with the first round pick with the condition, that's kind of Vitaly Abramov is probably the biggest piece out of this whole trade as of right now. But the 2019 first round pick is interesting because I don't know what that turns into if he doesn't sign. I don't think that's anything then. I'm not exactly sure about that, but that's something that I am a little hung up on because that's probably the second biggest piece. I'm not really sure about Jonathan Davidson. I don't know how great of a hockey player. I don't know much about him, but from what I've heard, Julius Bergman, he seems like a decent player. He might be, an NHL caliber defenseman. And then yesterday we saw Ryan Dzingel and a 2019 seventh round pick from Ottawa go to Columbus for a 2019 second round pick and a 2020 second round pick from Columbus and Anthony Duclair. So again, Anthony Duclair, I'm not sure. Again, there's another weird trade. I don't know. It depends on what you value this year's draft because some people are saying, there's a weaker draft, so Columbus may be throwing picks around and for the next 2 years. Now, here's the thing. That's why I was questioning about the first round pick because what is that first round pick? Does it become a third at best because they've given up the second round picks for the next 2 years? So that's an interesting trade. Obviously, we'll see what happens if Duchene does indeed sign. I saw him in a Blue Jacket sweater. And being an Islander fan, that's frustrating. I really wanted him to be an Islander. But, Duchene, he did look good. He looked good. And, it's one of those things. Now you have Dzingel and Duchene on Columbus. And the interesting thing is somebody posted something about on game 82 for the Columbus Blue Jackets, they are going to be playing the Ottawa Senators. Now, with where the Blue Jackets are, if the race continues to stay the way it is, they may be looking to that might be their last push to make the playoffs. Now, watch Ottawa make them miss the playoffs because of that last game. That would be something very interesting to look at the end of the season. But anyway, we have a lot of trades to get to, so let's continue. Carl Hagelin goes to the Washington Capitals for a 2019 third round pick and a 2019 sixth round pick. So Carl Hagelin, he struggled out in LA, obviously. The whole Kings team has really struggled, and he was supposed to be one of the guys to help with the scoring in Los Angeles, and obviously that has not worked. I think it's a combination of him maybe not being that great of a player and being able to lift players around him. He's one of those guys that gets lifted by the players he plays around. He's more of a secondary, third tier player. And really for Los Angeles, they get a couple more draft picks. There's no complaints. Again, this is interesting because this is another move. I'm not sure what Hagelin's cap hit is, but this may be another move to make, room over the summer for a guy like Panarin. So we'll see what happens. I don't think he has too high of a cap hit, probably $2 or $3 million at most, but it's something to look at. Now moving along. So this is a pretty big, people may not think this is that great of a trade. When I first heard it, I was kind of on the fence. The Charlie Coyle trade. So Charlie Coyle to Boston, and Minnesota gets Ryan Donato and a late round pick. I haven't seen what the late round pick is. Probably 5, 6, 7. This is interesting. When I first heard it, I was on the fence. Obviously, people on both sides felt that they won the trade, as a lot of trades do, which I think is fair because that's really what you're looking at as a GM. You want to see fair trades, and then you look back and say, "Oh, what a bad trade." But again, it's one of those things. It's a gamble. It could blow up in your face. It may not. Um, I like this trade for Boston, and the reason is obviously they've needed a guy, another depth guy to play. Now I wonder what this means. I don't know how much they value Charlie Coyle. Is this their solution for the top six? I would think not. But, I mean, how great would that be if you have a line of Coyle, Krejci, and a guy like DeBrusque maybe? I mean, that would be a great line. But maybe that's why they did this trade. They kind of want to see where it goes. And then if they feel that it's not going to work, then they can bring in a guy like Kreider or, Simmons. But we'll see what happens. And now that Dzingle's gone, I think the Boston Bruins are going to more heavily pursue a guy like Kreider. But we'll see what happens. For the Wild, Ryan Donato, obviously he had a great, start to his career coming into Boston. Pretty sure he came toward the end of the season. He played in college throughout the year. And then at the end of his college season, he came right into Boston. He scored in his first game. I think he was playing really well. Kings and Con. Okay, so now, all right, so this is breaking, but I kind of discussed it earlier. Mark Stone, his agent is in Ottawa. Again, I said this earlier. This is the last push. I mean, Pierre Dorion, I don't think it's worth taking the chance. But all right, let's keep going. I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, so the Devils made a trade. Ben Lovejoy to the Dallas Stars. I messed that up. Ben Lovejoy to Dallas in exchange for Connor Carrick and a third-round pick, 2019 from Dallas. I think the Devils won this deal. And I don't know how people have mixed feelings on a guy like Connor Carrick. You kind of know you have in a guy like Ben Lovejoy. He's a 6', 7 D man. Probably not much more than that. Now the thing I like about Connor Carrick is I live in the upper, northeast, and before Connor Carrick was in Toronto, where he was then traded to Dallas earlier this season, he played with Washington and the Hershey Bears. And I watch Hershey Bears hockey. I've been to a couple live games. And he looked like a pretty good player. Obviously, he hasn't been transitioning to the NHL as well as people had hoped. But honestly, I think there's more of a ceiling in Connor Carrick than Ben Lovejoy. So that alone, I feel like, is a win for New Jersey. And the fact that they get a third-round pick as well, I think that's a pretty good trade for the Devils. Connor Carrick, again, the Devils, they're getting a guy that's a 6th, 7th defenseman, but they may see him slotting into the second pairing. I mean, this is a guy that, and with the way that, again, this is interesting because now that we're seeing a guy like Carrick come in, is that a switch with Lovejoy, or is this creating a situation where Damon Severson gets moved and Carrick fills Severson's role? I don't know, but these are things we can speculate all day about. But it's something very interesting to look at, and we'll see what happens. But I would say as of right now, I think that's a great trade for the Devils. But again, the Stars, they're looking for more defensive help. They just recently got Jamie Alexiak, but hey, you know what? The more depth, the better, and I guess that's what the Devils are looking at right now. Excuse me, the Dallas Stars are looking at right now. All right, so another one. So Nick Jensen and a 2019 fifth-round pick to Washington, and then Detroit acquires Madison Bowie and a 2020 second-round pick. So again, there's another guy. He was in Washington, and he played in Hershey. And I've seen him play. And again, he's another guy. I think he's a pretty good player. He may not be he might not be a third or fourth guy on the team, But again, it's one of those trades where, you know, I mean, Nick Jensen in a fifth. I would say right there, I would say Detroit won between Bowie and Jensen, in my opinion. I've heard people say some great things recently about Nick Jensen. I haven't seen him play too much, but I like Madison Bowie, and I know who he is. He's one of those guys who's very inconsistent. He came into Washington last year, had a great season. Obviously, they won the cup and everything, so it was a great experience. But now he's moving to Detroit. We'll see what happens. And then Detroit gets a second for a fifth. Again, I don't know. It seems like that would almost be something where it would be reversed. I'm not sure. That's an interesting trade though. Again, I would say Detroit probably won as of right now. And then the one that ended the day, and this has been talked about all week. Matt Zuccarello didn't play yesterday in the matinee game, Devils Rangers, and it seemed like it was pretty imminent that Zuccarello would be traded. And as of probably Thursday or Friday, it was pretty much, teams were saying, or insiders were saying, Dallas looks to be the team that really is in on Zuccarello. Now, talk about conditional picks. This is an interesting one. So, the Rangers trade Matt Zuccarello to Dallas. The Rangers, as of right now, get a 2019 second round pick and a 2019 third round pick. Now, here's the caveat. So, that second round pick turns into a conditional first round pick for this year if the Dallas Stars make it to the Western Conference Finals. So they have to win 2 rounds. I don't see that happening, but it's out there for the Rangers. And then the third round pick, and this is interesting how a third becomes a first, but the third round pick has the condition if Zuccarello re-signs with the Dallas Stars this summer, that becomes a 2020 first round pick. So right now it's a second and third round pick going to the Rangers, but if things fall into place somehow, I don't know how they get past teams like Nashville and Winnipeg. You'd have to do that to get there, but I digress. The Rangers could possibly be getting 2 first round picks for Zuccarello. It's a weird scenario. It's a weird game that they're playing with these draft pick things, but we'll see what happens. The Ranger fans were very upset when they first heard about a second and a third round pick. But to be fair, not that long ago, in probably early January, late December, the rumors were possibly a second or a third round pick, and they were able to get both. So, again, and there's still the possibility and the hope that you get 2 first round picks for the next 2 years from Dallas. So, we'll see what happens, and I don't know if those are lottery protected because I don't know how Dallas is going to look next year. They're an interesting team. So that's a weird one for me, honestly, because this could be a steal for the Rangers if things fall into place. We saw last year with with this coming draft with Colorado, they were kind of in the middle team. This could backfire on the Dallas Stars. It looks like a huge win right now for the Stars, but things fall into place in weird ways. This could possibly be an absolute steal for the Rangers. So that's the latest in terms of the trades pre-NHL trade deadline at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So we're a little more than 24 hours out. It's going to be a crazy coming day before the deadline. We'll see what happens, though. I'm really excited. Obviously, a lot's been going on. Some minor deals we've seen, but overall, it should be a pretty good deadline. If you really like this video, subscribe and like, and make sure you turn on the bell notification to get updates on the latest videos to keep you updated, especially before the deadline tomorrow. So, thank you all for watching. Have a great day.